I played some 3-5 cash game poker in the hot state of Arizona at the Talking Stick Casino. I've been there a few times before, and I'm going to go over 3 hands I played, each with their own unique concept. The first one here being pot odds. A few limps in front of me, and I decide just to limp behind in the hijack. Player on the button with a world's greatest grandpa shirt raises to 35, and I close the action with a call, making this a 4-way pot. Checks to the preflop raiser, and he bets 80. Pretty standard so far. But then a player that has been pretty active so far shoves, and a lady that seems to be playing pretty tight also goes all in. I remember the exact amounts because the lady shoved for $1 more. I have to answer the question of if I'm first getting the direct odds to call. Then after that, I have to decide what's the best action to take, with the player behind me left to act, with both of us having a potential big side pot being much deeper. Pretty much the worst range of hands I thought I could be up against would make me a 3-1 underdog, needing 25% equity. The grandpa I didn't expect to raise very often at all. With this hand and drawing to the nuts, you essentially want everybody to fold or everybody to call. Now, off the table, we can see the absolute worst case scenario. I would actually have 17% equity and need 5-1 odds to call. But that is like a Freddy nightmare. Against a reasonable range of top pairs, flush draws, and specifically mostly sets for the lady, I am just getting the right price. But what about if the grandpa plans on going all in? I was planning on calling it off, which would be the correct play if I did first call, especially since in the side pot, I only need to specifically beat the one player. You do see, though, that if I knew for certain that the grandpa had something like an overpair and would go all in, it would actually be better to fold this hand. Grandpa does pretty quickly call, and an offsuit king comes on the turn. I check, and he bets small for 185. Glad he did that, because if he did actually shove all in, then I would not be getting the correct odds to call. But here it's an easy decision. I was planning on check folding on a non-club, so check fold. Showdown is what I expected from 2 of the players. The lady showing a set of 7s for the win, and the active player just mentioning he had a flush draw but not tabling it. Ace-king, though? Did not expect that. This hand is the most straightforward. Just some questions on the best bet sizes, and I would really appreciate your thoughts. Ace-jack of diamonds and a big flop. I bet half pot, but what do you think? I don't want weaker flush draws to fold, and I also don't mind pairs calling, given I have 50% equity against them, and feel I can easily barrel them off their hands. Turn is a jack, giving me top pair now, and I decide on an even smaller bet of 1/3 pot this time. Really don't want pairs or flush draws to fold now, and not many strong hands make sense for the villain to have since he didn't raise me on the flop and he checked here on the turn. He calls, and river pairs the bottom card, and I again go with the smaller bet of 100. He takes a few minutes before calling. He then gets very visually upset, mucks his hand. This next hand is not at all computational, just about needing villain to have a second best hand to call it with. Limped pot with ace-9, and I flop huge. Trips on a dry flop, not knowing I'm in trouble. I bet out and get called by the angry rival big blind, same guy from the last hand. Turn is an 8. I bet again, but get raised. I am almost certain he has an ace or a boat here, since no hands make sense to call this flop. Most people play pretty straightforward, especially this multi-way, and then bluff the turn for some random reason. I do situationally have a decent kicker, though, given he would likely raise big aces pre-flop, so I do believe he could be raising, planning on checking back second best hands of like ace-5 or 4. On the river, though, I was planning on check folding, unless it comes a 6, 8, or ace, obviously. I just don't think my arch nemesis here would bet again with a weaker ace. No, it can't be. Is that a Mirage?
But all I'm really thinking about is Vegas and the fucking Mirage.
Wasn't planning on that. So now what? I had the same thought process, didn't want him to check back smaller aces, and I thought he would just likely shove over the top with full houses anyway. So I try out the trendy down bet for 50. He quickly goes all in with what you see is ace 6. Once again, good triumphs over evil. That concludes my trip to the desert with a profit of $252. Ironically, I have done well in all geographic locations I have played in. New Jersey, San Diego, of course, like in last night's hand at 7 Mile, for example. Yeah, that's always fun. LA, Central California, Bay Area, and here in Arizona. All but one, which is actually my next stop in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I've pretty much just broken even. I wonder what is different about playing poker there that might make me play worse. I guess some of life's mysteries we will never discover.